In hushed corridors, a rumor returns. It speaks of a Jesuit library both remarkable and forbidden. 18th century missionaries gathered it from the wide map of the known world. They traveled far, not only for creed, for curiosity. They carried home manuscripts instead of gold, new science, bold philosophy, lives and rituals Europe had barely imagined. Then came expulsion. Several crowns turned on them. Doors closed. Orders fell. The books did not march in the open. They scattered into vaults, into monasteries, into ministries, into private hands. Some left no trail. Walk the cobbled streets in your mind. The air feels heavy with unsaid things. Shadows seem to hold more than shadow. What might those pages have changed? Maps, machines, faith itself. We follow the thread anyway, not into myth, into records and rooms and silence. Careful hands once turned those pages. This story reveals an archive buried not by time, by design. Listen, the Society of Jesus began in the early 16th century. The world soon called them Jesuits. Their mission reached beyond the pulpit. They taught in bustling classrooms. They studied the heavens and the earth. They pressed into new questions. Knowledge was not ornament. It was a path to God. It was a path to the world itself. Their schools multiplied. Universities still carry their imprint. Then came a larger vision. Build a library that gathered the world's wisdom, not a static trove, a living body of work. It would mirror human variety and change as the world changed. They traveled to Asia, Africa, and the Americas. They gathered texts and field notes. They listened. They compared. They returned with observations that unsettled Europe. Old certainties bent. New questions took root. Letters crossed oceans. Ideas outran borders. A network of thought unfurled across continents. It tried to bridge divides, patiently, boldly. The narrative still breathes. It asks for humility and for wonder, always for understanding. Every text in this extraordinary library fit a larger mosaic. Voices from lands Europe misread or ignored. Star charts by Chinese scholars. Plant lore and medicine by indigenous experts. Mathematics from the Islamic world. Within this vast trove lay friction, ideas that rattled doctrine and unsettled empire. Some pages questioned European certainties. Some upended colonial logic. The Jesuits stood at the threshold, global reach, careful steps, knowledge and caution. They pursued knowledge, they shielded it. They listened, they translated, they hesitated. Authorities watched. Certain truths felt perilous, even incendiary. Permission had edges. So the library became more than a vault. It held human striving and audacity. It chronicled risk. It carried wonder. A testament to a moment of widening horizons, not narrowing. Across Europe, suspicion tightened around Jesuit learning. Their libraries glowed, watchful eyes narrowed. By the mid-18th century, political and religious turmoil simmered. The Jesuits collided with rising nationalism. They met an unyielding church hierarchy. Their independence sounded alarms. Despots gathered strength. They moved to crush every rival voice, singular authority, or nothing. The society became a target. Enlightenment within their shelves unsettled power. What followed wore the mask of expedience. Decrees spread, swift and cold. Bans fell across many realms. Assets were seized. The grand library dimmed, once a beacon of pursuit, now declared seditious. It stood on the verge of erasure. Memory itself was the battlefield. Then came the quiet work. A covert operation to bury more than paper, not just books, ideas. Expulsion orders crossed continents. Jesuits prepared to leave their missions and colleges. Libraries stood exposed. Thousands of volumes faced risk. Then quiet hands began to act. Secrets moved in daylight shadows. Books slipped from shelves. Some found refuge in university archives. A scholar unlocked a door, another sealed a ledger. Others vanished into private rooms. Their guardians knew their worth. Many disappeared completely, carried off to nameless addresses. Imagine a moonlit courtyard, small gatherings, boxes lifted without a word, footsteps soft, a cart creaked. Some collections survived that night, others dissolved into anonymity. Like breath on glass, history paid a price, pages torn from spines, titles erased. Stories halted mid-thought. What became of these texts? Lost to time's cold drift, or buried beneath patient dust, hidden by craft and fear, waiting for a lantern and a careful hand. In this hush of concealment, the intrigue deepens. The Vatican guarded an archive vast enough to feel endless. It saw the Jesuit trove with divided eyes, an ally in learning, a threat to doctrine. The Holy See knew secrecy. It had locked away disputed pages before. But these materials reached deeper. They pressed against the joints of belief. Tension mounted. Leaders weighed a hard choice. Quell the ideas they deemed heresy. Spare the knowledge itself. Faith stood at the table. Politics pulled up a chair. Picture the corridors below. Stone passages turned and narrowed beneath the Vatican. Shelves heaved with scrolls and codices. A labyrinth under constant watch. Doors closed. Voices carried. What could be studied without fracture? What must remain sealed? Every title felt consequential. They understood the stakes. Guard the paper. Guide the reader. Words travel farther than decrees. They move hearts. They rally minds. No ruler controlled that current for long. Centuries passed. Whispers rose again. Forgotten works surfaced in unlikely rooms. Dusty volumes slept in attics. Diaries recorded stubborn attempts to carry knowledge forward. Each rediscovery fanned the idea of a lost library. Not myth alone, a trove of wisdom, scattered yet intact. Picture a low and musty basement packed with relics. An intrepid seeker lifts a manuscript unknown to the world. The paper breathes dust. History stirs. Curiosity sharpens into questions. What exactly lies there? Which voices were muted, and why? Could unsung scholars have nudged science and culture in new directions? Give them voice. We sift through fragments, faded ink, fragile parchment. Stories surface, then converge. A mosaic appears, fractured yet vivid. It challenges accepted histories. It unsettles certainty. It rekindles long-dormant passion across the intellectual community. Imagine a world nudged by documents we never got to read. Not erased, simply sidelined. Censors lose their grip. Ideas once muted rise to full volume. Western thought meets unfamiliar maps of being and law. Different laws of nature enter the seminar. Medicine learns from other lineages. Healers trade recipes across deserts and estuaries and icy passes beneath stubborn stars. Exploration turns its compass by new stars. Culture draws breath from broader lungs. Printers spread unfamiliar treatises across guild tables and kitchen stools and pilgrim roads under an open sky. The city listens. Picture Renaissance streets at dusk. Printers' ink warm. Debates spill into courtyards. Diverse voices collide, ideas blend. A vibrant weave appears and holds. Kinetic energy hums, then redirects history. These sideline narratives test our yardstick for progress. They ask harder questions. What counts as true? Who gets to decide? Imagine the barriers between East and West, North and South, not hardened, dissolved. through patient exchange and traveled minds. Centuries earlier, the map looks different, so does the mirror. Today would echo otherwise, in knowledge, in culture, in spirit. The Jesuit library bears loss. It also bears defiance. Knowledge resists erasure. For centuries, suppression returned in waves. Still guardians stepped forward. They risked hearth and name and breath to shelter forbidden pages. They kept the flame of inquiry lit. We follow their thread, faint but unbroken. Clandestine figures. Scholars turned rebels. They moved manuscripts hand to hand, candle to candle. They sowed enlightenment in stubborn soil. Night-lit rooms glowed. Inside those rooms, the voices were discordant. They traded not plots but hopes. Ink on spare parchment. Thought hardened into quiet revolt. Persecution closed in. Many faced a stark choice, safety or truth. Most chose the harder path. They paid in exile, some in silence. Their legacy remains hushed yet forceful. It crosses time, proof that intellectual courage often burns brightest in enforced shadow. The Jesuits did not fade. Trials rose and receded. Their influence held. Across continents, renowned colleges and universities bear their imprint. Founders drew courage from a simple conviction. Education changes minds and communities. Knowledge is meant to serve. That ethic persists. Jesuit campuses still choose the long path of truth-seeking. Open inquiry, hard questions, always. More questions, inquiries that honor their forebears. The old principles echo, engage, reflect, act, not knowledge hoarded, knowledge used for the common good. Walk those quads in your mind. Spire and bell tower lift the eye. Students lean over books. Others knot and debate under a sudden wind. Past and present meet in that hum. A quiet dialogue, then a spark. The tradition breathes through small choices, reading one more line, asking one more why. It does not demand reverence. It invites courage. It asks what we will remember, and how we will respond to curiosity's evolving story. It asks again, tomorrow. At the threshold of the Vatican's archives, speculation breathes. Some believe those rooms hold consequential knowledge. It could recast history and theology, even science. Access is narrow by design. The wait is long. Requests meet quiet refusals or long delays. Mystery grows in the pause. Picture corridors without end. Keys whisper in locks behind unmarked doors. Few are invited past the threshold. Fewer still linger. Shelf after shelf suggests a proposition. Memory outlasts doubt. Ink fades. Questions do not. What doctrines slipped from view? Which debates cooled before daylight? Scholars wrestle with absence. They draft petitions. They follow footnotes like crumbs. Faith stands beside scrutiny. The line between them wavers. Each appeal for access reaches beyond curiosity. It asks for wholeness. To see our past complete, sacred and secular in one frame. Not to conquer either. To listen. To understand endurance and loss. And perhaps to see a little further together. History leaves stray signals, faded receipts, marginal notes, fragments tucked into places no map foretold. Each hint points back to a lost library, to a promise unkept. Scholars chase them. Treasure seekers join the trail. Different motives, same hunger, unshaken. The work is patient. The pursuit is bold. This journey carries the heat of adventure and the discipline of study. Daring academics shoulder packs. Intrepid explorers read dust like text. Across sunstruck plains in South America, a single doorway breathes after decades of silence. In a broken cloister in Europe, a shard of vellum loosens from stone. Boots grind soil. Hands lift ledgers. Archives open with a sigh. Alcoves release a flake of light. Hope keeps the pace. So does rigor. Every footfall says begin again. The quest is of heart and of mind. Clues rise like fish to the surface. Tantalizing, partial. The puzzle grows larger, it clarifies. Paradox at work. New edges appear. Old gaps echo. Complexity sharpens excitement. Mystery does not thin. It deepens. Facts emerge. People appear. Names. Griefs. Small triumphs. Lives pressed between uncertain years. Behind the silence waits a human chorus. Not yet gone. Almost within reach. Turn toward the present. The Jesuit library becomes a mirror. It throws back hard light. We see the old reflex to fence knowledge. It returns in new dress again and again. Today the argument lives online. Platforms pulse with exchange. Filters tighten. Gates reappear under fresh names. Feeds roar with dispute and doubt. Voices cross and collide within digital walls. Some threads move freely. Others stall. Visualize a vast mesh of signals and choke points. Open fields and narrow doors. We walk that maze. We ask what gatekeeping does to growth, to dialogue, to democracy. We ask the older question, again, who decides what may be known? Who seals it away? The cycle persists, yet something holds. Knowledge keeps its charge, it slips past, it waits, it endures. Curiosity crosses centuries, scholarship endures. Each generation inherits ancient quests. They bring a fresh gaze, not novelty, renewal. Picture a classroom. Technology meets tradition. Students argue consequences of the past through immersive virtual interfaces. Questions spark. Screens breathe. Old texts wake. Jesuit tenets steady the hand. Question the fixed story. Study the silences in the record. This new wave will shape tomorrow's dialogue and decisions. They seek unbarred access to knowledge. That hunger invites an open exchange of ideas. The exchange grows bolder, more intertwined across cultures and disciplines. Bridges replace borders. The world keeps turning. These inquiring minds steer the narrative. They listen for what was lost and then answer it. From whispered pages to living voices, the echo becomes direction. Our exploration draws to a quiet close. We consider endurance and what might return. The books may remain beyond reach, yet the impulse to seek holds, steady, patient, resolute, hopeful. The Jesuits' lost library becomes a sign of faith in knowledge itself. Challenged, scattered, not erased, an ember. It refuses to cool. It searches for air, for custodians, for time. Picture a far horizon at dusk. Threads of culture and thought glow there, subtle, luminous, mysterious. Pages can vanish. Inks can fade. Curiosity does not. It bends. It waits. It learns new paths. The lesson feels simple and vast. Guard what you can. Cherish what survives. Share what you find. Keep searching. Rekindle what was dimmed. Keep open the doors to learning. Move toward the next light.